positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk Today.
What is on your mind, Cayman? If you are ready to talk, we are ready to listen. Here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, welcome and thank you very much for joining us in a chance to start off a discussion focusing on education, not just education, but to our friends over the Office of Early Education Standards and Early Childhood Care and Education Unit, the foundation. And then at 1 o'clock we get to pivot slightly and talk to our good folks over at DOE about the protected areas. So a lot of good things to cover. But we start off right on the right foot on education. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is reminding you.
Avoid any statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use indecent language or make any statement that is false or misleading. Call 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990, 949-8037, or WhatsApp us on 925-3261.
Email Talk Today at candw.ky. Let your voice be heard.
And now, back to Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, Radio Cayman Talk Today.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us, and a very pleasant welcome to everybody, in particular those who are in our studio. Because through you and the information you share, not only are we edified, educated, and informed, but hopefully inspired to great things. With great deference to Ms. Rocket and Dr. Burl and everybody else. Ms. Althea, how are you? I love the chartreuse, is it? Yeah.
It's a shade of green.
Shade of green? Hey, I was trying
You may have the correct name for it, obviously.
Okay, deliberately white, and sadly, unfortunately, I'm not in that world yet. Today, you point to someone and say, oh, I love those earrings. Oh, that's just a wonderful smile. And they might be appreciative. Someone standing by might be offended. So if you are, tough luck. You have the most winning smile, so welcome, thank you. And the reason I emphasize the color, in education, we started teaching our students numbers, colors, shapes, and all those things, right? And it's only when you get to, my age, you guys will get there in some time, you only realize how important that foundation is. But as a parent, initially, you were thinking, well, what do you mean my child doesn't know how to count? What do you mean? You're only 2 years old and you don't, know every language in the world and the quadratic equation. And yet, that's not what learning is. That's just something. So maybe I'll have a chance to get it right the next time around. So to you, Ms. Althea, and through you and all the panelists, can we start first and not just welcome, but a quick invitation and a welcome, and then we'll sort of pivot back and forth. We go to you and then Dr. Burrell and then Ms. Rocket, and then, kind of like a zigzag, crisscross, applesauce, whatever the children play.
Sure.
All right. So welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and good afternoon to your listeners. I am Althea Edwards Booth with the Office of Education Standards.
All right. Dr. Burrell.
I'm Pearline Henry Burrell, the Minister of Education, Early Childhood Care and Education Unit. I'm proud to serve as the Policy Advisor and Manager for that unit.
All right.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Rocket. I'm Director of Just for Kids Preschool located in Prospect. Good afternoon. I'm Bernice Ciproni McLeod. I am the Director of School of Early Childhood at George Brown College from Toronto, Canada.
And thank you. Now you may wonder, well, what did he do in the X? It's only because how you sat. In my thinking, we've got, sort of the ministry level here, but the department. Then we have the lower school and then the university. You see the logic how the mind works? It makes sense sometimes to some people. But the reason why is that we're covering all the gamuts, from the policy to the implementation, from the early years to what we hope isn't the seminal point, but the continuation, not the capstone, but the accumulation. All right, so back to Miss Althea. Friday is a big day for many of us.
Yes, we are in countdown mode. So obviously we're very excited that the day is drawing nearer. When we visited with you last month, it seemed it was a while away. Tomorrow is the penultimate day. We're excited. As you know, we're partnering with the Early Childhood Care and Education Unit to facilitate an inspiring learning event for early childhood educators, managers, owners, other key stakeholders. And that event is intended to raise and promote improved standards in early childhood education. We have an inspiring lineup in terms of our international presenters, supported capably by our local presenters, and we have our colleague in studio with us as well, with Ms. Rocket. So we aim to have a very engaging, inspiring event where our educators will learn emerging practices, be able to share best practices, and be equipped with the tools and resources they need to promote improved learning outcomes for our children and to improve their learning experiences. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about the event.
Excellent. And as we go into the break first, Ms. Bernice, through you, we can see in some instances in early childhood, the first few years of that child's life and introduction to teaching and learning and all the things that would come. But for some who, well, wait a minute, university level, how does that fit in? I think I have an idea. In fact, I'm pretty confident in it. But from your perspective, at the top and then looking down to that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year old, even sometimes the high school student, we're at graduate level, postgraduate. Does it tie in? Does it make sense to touch base with them now at this early formative years? Give us your take, please.
Well, it's been very clear to us in Canada and across the globe that credentials matter. So if we want children to have quality experiences in the early years, we need to make sure that we have qualified, well-educated, and well-compensated early childhood educators who understand pedagogy, who understand how to translate theory into practice. So in pre-service, right, which is where my expertise lies, it's really about how do we provide that foundational knowledge and that experience for folks who are thinking about entering into practice, because we know there's a direct correlation. So it's not enough to just provide any kind of early learning and care. It really is about the quality of those interactions, which we had the privilege of witnessing today, Ms. Rockets and some of the centers that we were visiting. It's really about those interactions, those responsive relationships. It's about how we nurture children's minds and their appreciation for lifelong learning. So again, that comes with staff who are educated and understand how child development operates, how it unfolds, and how we need to be intentional in our interactions and our programming and our pedagogy with young children and their families.
And their families. Intentional.
Yes.
And sometimes in law, we say intent is that one thing, you can, I don't remember much for criminal law, but actus reus versus the mens rea. That intent is the hard thing to prove, but if you're intentional, then you can bring it about. As we come back from the break, unless Ms. Rocket wants to jump in, if not, we're going to invite you to share from that perspective, and then Dr. Burrell.
Okay.
And then we're going to solve all the problems. Please rejoin us after the break.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway, Eat fresh.
She hear clunk and her car stop. I was just about to send her some money, so I send it straight to her JN Money Transfer card. It cost me less, and perhaps she use the card, pay the garage right away. She'll get discount through the JN Rewards program in Jamaica. This card make things easy. You can even get funds at any multi-link ATM.
JN Money Transfer Card. Fast, affordable, convenient. Tell your loved ones in Jamaica about it. Sign up is free.
This summer, discover adventure, magic, culture, nature, and so much more with Cayman Airways. Airfares are now on sale for travel this summer. Visit New York, Denver, Los Angeles, Miami, Tampa, Kingston, Montego Bay, Panama, Havana, and La Ceiba. But hurry, sale ends June 1st. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or book online at CaymanAirways.com. Make this your best summer yet with Cayman Airways.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
The Spring Labor Force Survey and Quality of Life Survey conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office is currently underway. The Labor Force Survey seeks to collect data on employed and unemployed persons in the Cayman Islands, as well as those who are not in the labor force. The Quality of Life Survey seeks to gather information on life satisfaction, sense of well-being, financial security, economic outlook, and perceived health. Trained interviewers with ESO ID cards will visit randomly selected households. The interviews are confidential in accordance with the Statistics Act. No individual data will be published or disclosed. Survey data are exempt from Freedom of Information requests. For more details, please call the ESO hotline at 516-3329.
System 1 loaded. For the record, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings from 7:30 to 9:30, we interview the various government ministers, opposition, and Cayman Island legislators. For the record is brought to you by West Bay Pharmacy at Centennial Towers. Visit us today for fast, efficient, and professional service. Everything you need and the hours you need it at West Bay Pharmacy.
Can you tell me what does a turtle do on his birthday? He celebrates! Celebrate your loved one's special birthday with a birthday shout-out live on For the Record with Mr. Oret Connor, only on Radio Cayman. WhatsApp your loved one's name to 925-3261. That's 925-3261. Radio Cayman's birthday shout-outs live on For the Record with Mr. Oret Connor every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Brought to you by Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands. From Tortuga Wholesalers. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. And by Superior Auto. They keep your car in tune. Call 949-9570 or 525-9571. Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks very much. And even though I've said it many times, and some may appreciate the passion and certainly the respect, and in a society, and specifically in Cayman, I always believe the pillars, not financial services or whatever else is called, not, if we had oil or natural resources from gold, simple, a very strong, dynamic, robust education system with a complementary healthcare system. If people are not healthily educated, all the money in the world is of no use. So I share that as we go on the table again. And Ms. Evelyn, from that perspective, once an educator, always an educator. And I gather that ethos that's inculcated in that person that becomes an educator is just almost innate. They do it because they can and they want whatever experience, education, or otherwise that they have isn't leveraged for financial gain. It's more about public good. It's when you share at the university level. Let's pivot to you from that early years. This little mind coming in all precocious, all excited, nervous, and that's just the parent.
Well, as you know, I started off at middle school, then went to high school, and now I'm back down to the preschool. And I can definitely say that this has been the most rewarding time of my professional career in education, because you get the opportunity to mold and to help develop that child on a journey that they're going to be on for the rest of their lives. And you can't get it any more important than that. And not only that, you get to have fun. Learning should be fun. When you take the fun out of learning, and also the interest of the children is also taken into consideration at that age. And for some reason, we tend to lose it somewhere along the line. It is just so much fun for them. The eagerness that you see each day on their faces, because they want to get in there, they want to dig, they want to explore, they want to investigate. And I think, unfortunately, we tend to lose that somewhere along the line. And I hope and pray that as we evolve in early childhood, and a lot of evolving has been going on in the Cayman Islands. I mean, we have now new OES standards just for early childhood, complements to OES. You know, they've done a fantastic job with it, thorough. There are now workshops for preschool practitioners. Everything is evolving. We're getting where we need to go. And I think that everyone is on board, and that's the wonderful thing about it. So the wheels are moving quite fast, and lots of results are being seen. And I think within the next 5 years, we're really going to be reaping the benefits of what we've invested in early childhood here in the Cayman Islands.
It's so much there to unpack, and I'm hoping that we do it. But Dr. Burrell, jump in if you want.
I just want to join the conversation from a point of a policy, policy advisor. In terms of, it is the human rights, and that's where we have to always go back. That's the human right of every child to be educated. And one of the things we notice as we go across the sector, the early childhood sector, that there are different offerings at different levels, and that has to do with access. And one of the equalizer is actually one of like the early learning event that's coming up, so that everyone, regardless of their setting is, whether it's one that serves the high quality setting in terms of the rating, but also in terms of the costing that is attached to it, that every child can have access to quality. And so partnering with the Office of Education Standards, we set the standards and expectation, the quality assurance part of it. But we're moving towards that understanding that with that setting of the standards and expectations, that there is a level playing field. So that playing field is now level. So the expectation is not here and there for anyone, but is for everyone to access. So with that playing field being leveled, we are saying that every child, every practitioner across the country knows that expectation. And as a Ministry of Education, we do take our strategic policy statements very dearly to our hearts. And so we are looking at advancing early childhood education as set out in the strategic policy statement for on the education. And so improving the quality of offering in terms of our professionals is something that we take real seriously. And we continue to have each one teach one, because you talked about that nature of us seeing the sector as just one. And one of the things we are proud of as a sector is that every center is willing to help in some regards. And with their assessment from OES, you know where each center stands in terms of their quality, and we know who has what best practice or good practice and can share. And there has been an overwhelming amount of sharing across the sector. And so this learning event is just another opportunity for practitioners, local practitioners, to share on a larger platform, because each one teach one is something that we have. We have Circle of Peers, and our colleague here, Ms. Rocket, and other stakeholders within the sector is really one of those persons who are really helping to support other center leaders or manager in whatever areas of strength that they have. So that's the foundation of this collaborative effort, to ensure that the practice is actually shared across the sector. So we are confident that we're on a transformation journey. And going back to Ms. Rocket, it's a journey in early childhood, but there are lots of different pockets of good practices that will be shared at this learning event and will be shared even after the learning event. So we are excited from a policy perspective that we're actually building policies and practices that will help to ensure that quality education is offered across the island.
All right. We do have a caller joining us. I wanted to come back to Ms. Bernice first, but let's take this call and see where it goes. And hey, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I've been listening to this discussion about early childhood education.
Yes, sir.
You got a policy advisor there, and some other ones which I don't know exactly what their title is or function or whatever. But and I just kind of popped in here. I heard mention nurturing the young mind of the child. Now, when you think about nurturing the young mind of the child, and basically I think the conversation has been around, this is going on in I guess primary school or kindergarten or whatever. But when you put that up against what that same child might be exposed to with an iPhone in their hand, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, are there any policies being developed or even being thought about or have been advised about that element?
Dr. Burrell?
So in terms of access, the fact of the matter is that, and I will be supported by my colleagues, is that we do live in a technological world where it's part of the children's development and access. And so it's more the responsible use of technology. And so within the education sphere, early childhood education, you have in the CDC, right, talks about children below the age of 2 should not have access to, and that's screen time. So because screen time...
Is that the U.S. entity you're referencing?
Yeah. So it's that time where the child is constantly being bombarded by, let's say, TV or different gadgets. So it's a technological tool that we are talking about, where we don't want the child to be on the phone, on the tablet, on watching the TV, because there is something that is essential in the early years that is called the serve and return. So you want that conversational piece to be going on. And so while they may be enjoying things on technology, then you want to have that responsible use of the technological tool, because technology in the early years goes beyond cell phone and all those. Is machinery, it's different stuff that we call technology, but I think it's more the tool. From a policy point of view, there is, in terms of the government schools, I've had that one-to-one initiative, and there's a policy around that, the use of technology. Our early years settings do use technology, they're encouraged to, but is the use of it is where we're looking at, where those conversations are had in terms of what is appropriate use of it, is more integration of it within the learning experiences to advance children's learning and development. So we do have those conversations with our center owners and managers from time to time, and I think the Office of Education started to have those too, because as I said, you cannot divorce the child from technology when you're living a technological advanced world.
And that's a discussion, I think, for future reference. I made a note to revisit that. Before we continue discussions, or anything else you want to share? I'm respectful of our...
My mind goes now to how is there been, or are there any monitoring elements on what the policy advisor just said, or do you think it's just they're going over the head of everybody?
So
how do we know what that policy is?
All right, so in terms of early childhood, and I would not, that's someone else's portfolio in terms of ICT and its integration within the learning environment, more for primary school. In terms of early childhood, what we're saying, that discussion is more about the integration of the technological tool into the early years setting. So we cannot monitor that from a ministry point of view, but the understanding with our practitioners within their policies that they would have, within their operation when we go in to look at the settings, we'll have those kind of conversations as to what is screen time, the amount of screen time that is offered within the center. And in most cases, we do not have that over usage of technology within our earlier settings. When it comes on to parents, I think that's another kind of conversation, and we have had those conversations through a program that we have called the Golden Threads of Early Childhood, where we're having those online conversations. So we have those conversations, but in terms of early childhood written national policy, from an early childhood level, there is no national policy at this time.
Right. Yes, sir.
Well, I think there could be a challenge on something that she said about their exposure, because in most settings you go, you see 1.5, 2 years old with an iPhone in their hand.
Right.
I'll leave it at that.
Yes, sir. And I think perhaps anyone else can weigh in, and whereas as important as that is with respect to the call up at our time, those are discussions. If we look at Europe and UK in particular relative to just recently what they're talking about as the caller shares, how much of these devices should be allowed in education and up to what point. There are a number of people, according to the UK media, who are suggesting, from parents to other practitioners, hey, maybe no cell phones until you're 16. Different things, right, Ms. Bernice?
Yeah, I'll just weigh in on that because it's recent policy in Ontario, Canada, that they are now instituting policy in the school boards that children are not allowed to have their cell phones with them, that parents would have to provide special permission. I mean, again, the research is really clear around screen time. But I'd also say that it's been my experience that most children in quality settings are not interested in their cell phones, that they're engaged in outdoor play, they're engaged in play and learning. So it's really about inquiry-based playing. It's, as Ms. Rocket was saying earlier, it is really about exploration. It's about investigating and researching their environment and figuring out relationships and correlation and cause and effect, which does not lend itself to the iPhone. The iPhone really, like technology is, again, to Dr. P's point, it's really about the use of it in a responsible way and acknowledging that children are going to grow up in a technological world, that we need to prepare them how to engage with it in a responsible way and how to use it to advance their learning.
Ms. Althea, if I might just return to Ms. Bernie's first word to you. We are now seeing from research, and I use that carefully because there's some people who say things that...
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Bernice, for understanding. Even our physicians are saying, hey, neck strain, eye strain, the things in the wrist and the dexterity and all these other things that may be negatively affected. Ms. Bernice, you've referenced earlier, in the early childhood, we want the competency, the experience, the expertise. We want this personnel that are in this space, and not because they're young children that we should be dismissive as to have. If I heard you an inference, just the opposite. Because they're so young and impressionable, Mr. Evans, we need to have the very best in there.
That's right.
But practice seems to be, at least in the Cayman context, that, is that really the case? Globally, when you look at it, the countries that have done that, they see the benefits 10, 15, 30, 50 years later. But nobody sees that at, one election cycle to the next, one board submission to the next. Respectfully, your take on it at that level of, academics that you are in terms of postgraduate and the like, are we looking down and seeing, hey, are we having the best practices in this? Are we implementing the policies as a college share? Are we monitoring and enforcing? Are we ensuring that the people who are deploying these strategies are actually just those same people that we want? Are we giving the resources, the budget, and all those things? Would that be too much to ask of our visitor, just as a perspective globally, not to the Cayman context?
Globally?
Yeah. Generally?
Yes, we're moving in the right direction. I mean, we're here from Canada because we know that there's an opportunity to learn. There's an exchange of knowledge that we think will benefit us. Because I can say confidently from my visits in the last couple of days that we are seeing it here, that we are seeing a real understanding of play and learning, that we are seeing the investments, right, in terms of the personnel, as you'd say, the educators. We're seeing a lot of passion, a lot of commitment, and we're seeing a real understanding about the importance of relationships and interactions, being responsive to children's needs and interests. We're actually seeing it, we're witnessing here. So we've been really quite delighted, and we've actually picked up a few things that we're going to take back and introduce to our Canadian audiences. Right.
So, Ms. Althea, when we come back from the break, he reminds us, can we talk about that? Remind us of the conference, the importance, and this is going to be one of many discussions to come. And yes, if you find that education is my passion, just join me. Compliment me with the E, not with the I. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
This summer, discover adventure, magic, culture, nature, and so much more with Cayman Airways. Airfares are now on sale for travel this summer between Grand Cayman and all of their international summer destinations. Visit New York, Denver, Los Angeles, Miami, Tampa, Kingston, Montego Bay, Panama, Havana, and La Ceiba. But hurry, this summer airfare sale ends June 1st. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or book online at CaymanAirways.com. Make this your best summer yet with Cayman Airways.
From boat days to beach gatherings, Leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
Public health is the science and art of preventing disease, prolonging life, and promoting health through the organized efforts of society. Environmental health, mental health, and physical health are all public health. Cayman's new national health strategy aims to protect and promote the nation's public health outcomes, but to do this, we need to hear from you. The Ministry of Health and Wellness is now accepting feedback about healthcare in Cayman on mohfeedback@gov.ky or on gov.ky/health-wellness. Deadline is May 31st. Your opinion matters.
Your dream home starts with a vision, and often inspiration is at the heart of that vision. Brand Source Home Gallery's in-house designers are here to help bring your vision to life. Whether you're remodeling or building a new home, Brand Source Home Gallery is your one-stop solution. Explore their kitchen cabinets, sinks, faucets, bath fixtures, tubs, vanities, and more. Let Brand Source's designers help and inspire you with your next project. Call 623-5000 and schedule an appointment with a design expert at Brand Source Home Gallery, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, serving Cayman for 50 years.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Discover your dream home with Cayman National's home loan. Get up to 95% financing, repayment up to 40 years, and just a 0.5% commitment fee. Your interest rate? Depending on your risk factors, it'll be fixed or variable. Plus, you get a pre-approved credit card. This is a limited time offer. Dial 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
Oh, when the saints go marching in.
The Christian Association of Civics is pleased to announce that the March for Jesus will be taking place in Cayman Brac, 22nd of June 2024. Visit christian.ky for more information or call or WhatsApp 929-6657. Cayman Brac, get your shoes ready. It's the March for Jesus happening on June 22nd.
Oh, Lord, I thought to be in that number when the saints go marching in.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us as we focus on education. Ms. Althea Edwards Booth, thank you for helping to facilitate discussion for the wonderful conference that is coming up, and apologize that we didn't dedicate a whole week to discussion instead of just less than 45 minutes. But for Friday, as you said, the penultimate day.
Yes. Well, tomorrow's the penultimate day, and then kaboom, Friday. Yes.
That's a word we don't hear much, except in writing, the penultimate paragraph. And you go, that must be important. But tomorrow, and on the eve of the penultimate day, tell us about this conference on Friday.
Okay, so we've dubbed it a learning event because obviously we want to ensure that our practitioners are able to learn from each other, to exchange ideas, engage in reflection, stimulating discussions, and also interact, collaborate, and learn from our international partners.
Yes.
The early childhood inspection framework that was developed in October of last year and has been deployed on inspection since January of this year sets out very clear expectations in terms of the standards and practices that promote high quality learning and development in early childhood. So whether it's the quality of teaching and learning, the quality of the learning environment, Bernice spoke about the quality of staffing, the quality of leadership to drive self-evaluation and improvement planning. So the framework is actually the anchor for the conference, for the learning event.
I like it, learning.
Because then we're focusing on key aspects so that we can upskill our practitioners in those areas so that they can then improve their practice. If I may, I'll just share some highlights in terms of the key thematic areas that we'll be focusing on Friday. So we'll have topics include integrating creative and expressive arts and design in the early childhood curriculum, integrating Caymanian culture and heritage in the early childhood curriculum. Why do I keep saying commission?
Because it should be.
Assessment and moderation in early childhood, relationships and support for developing children's self-regulation, integrated learning experiences, creating stimulating and exciting learning environments indoors and outdoors, nurturing phonological awareness in early childhood. So there's a wide range of topics that I think meet the niche need in terms of our practitioners and the sector at this time. And obviously guided, as I said, by the framework, because much of this is encapsulated in the performance standards in the framework.
And this is where I think that investment, I like the word that was used, investment. We're going to see the returns later on, and we have to be willing to make that investment purposeful, intentional. So as we close out our discussions, I'm going to end with you, but I can ask Dr. Bell some quick points, Ms. Bernice, and then Ms. Evelyn. Would that be fine?
All right, so back to Olivia's point that we're actually looking at inspiring our practitioners to continue to chart the path in terms of providing quality interactions and settings for our young children. And going back to the point that it is the right of every child to be educated. So we are moving forward to ensure that it's not a privilege, but it stays a right. And regardless of where you're at, it's a human right, the simplest of human right to be educated. And as we move forward with this learning event and in the whole sector itself, we are saying that let's quality education be accessible to every child in this island, regardless of the setting. And this learning event is just one event in the many events to come.
Yeah, appreciate it. Ms. Bernice, thank you so much, too, by the way.
Thank you. I guess my final thoughts are thinking about that, what's happening on the global stage, that there's a groundswell, that there's a recognition across the globe around early childhood education and care and the opportunity to really change the trajectory of children's lives, to really think about the opportunities, to think about how equity is achieved by providing quality experiences, and to think about the educators. And I continue to always talk about the educators because I'm in pre-service, but also the research really suggests that educators facilitate children's learning. So we need to invest in them as much as we invest in children, their families, and community.
It is quite obvious that OES and early childhood is paying attention to what they're observing out there. Because of that, this learning experience is about to happen. They've been inside of the early childhood centers. They have been observing, they've been working with them, and the next step would have been to put on such a workshop, a learning event that can enhance the practitioners so that we can have a better level playing field. Because right now it is all over the spectrum.
Yeah.
And we need to bring those who are weak up and those who are strong to continue to be even stronger. And I think that this is all part of the big picture of us evolving into a very dynamic, engaging, exciting time for early childhood here in the Cayman Islands. And I just cannot wait to be a part of this on Friday. I think it's going to be the start of something that is not going to be easily stopped.
Yeah.
It's a movement.
Oh, yes.
I like it.
I love that.
Well, if you wish, in closing.
Just to echo the thoughts of my colleagues, because we recognize that early childhood is a critical period and it influences children's life chances. We have a shared investment in ensuring that our children in their formative years are exposed to high quality learning experiences and resources. And the best way to provide that is to equip our practitioners with the necessary skills, pedagogy, knowledge to support learning, high quality learning experiences at the early childhood level. We're really excited about this event. It's an inaugural event, and I'm sure it will be the first of many. There has been quite a bit of interest from the public, from our educators, school leaders, and so we expect to have a really enriching, fulfilling time tomorrow. And I know our educators will leave motivated, inspired, and engaged to support and promote improved outcomes for our children.
If I wasn't enthusiastic before, I am now. I'm excited here. And we'll mention something during the break. But thank you all for coming on, Ms. Moniz, for visiting, partnering, Dr. Bell, and of course, Ms. Ellen. This is what makes us where we are. So thanks very much, and looking forward to future discussions and actions, implementation, and accountability. All right, we're going to pause. We're going to take the break. Please join us after.
Covering Little Cayman, Kim and Bragg.
Cover me.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Local, regional, international news.
The Headline News is brought to you by Kirk Market and Health Services Authority.
Good day, I'm Jevi Ebanks with your latest headlines. Melbourne Junior Dyke is scheduled for sentencing today following a domestic dispute incident. Dyke, who has a history of unrelated convictions and pending legal matters, will face judgment at 2 p.m. for this particular case. In regional news, BVI Premier Dr. Natalia Wheatley has expressed approval of Governor Daniel Bruce's inaugural quarterly assessment of the Commission of Inquiry Recommendations implementation. The review is part of the framework agreement between the British Overseas Territories Government and the United Kingdom. Premier Wheatley commended the Governor's objective and thorough report and reaffirmed both parties' dedication to fulfilling the COI recommendations by the revised deadline of August 31st. He highlighted the improved cooperation and communication between government teams and stakeholders. In St. Vincent, a magistrate court has favored the defense in the case against teacher Adriana King, accused of obstructing Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves from entering Parliament on the 5th of August 2021. The court's decision to stay the prosecution implies that, barring any action from the Director of Public Prosecution, such as reinstating the charge or filing the appeal, Ms. King is relieved from the charge that had disrupted her teaching career. Magistrate John acknowledged the excessive delay in the case's proceedings, but ruled out any misconduct by the DPP. That's your latest headlines. I'm Jevi Ebanks.
More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
At Kirk Market, it's so easy to eat well and find healthy options. With their fresh veggies from local farmers, hormone-free chicken, local seafood, and grass-fed meats, Kirk Market has delicious, quality food at the best prices. And you must check out their fresh salad bar, hot bar, and med bar for daily healthy options on the go. Their delicious dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients such as prime meats and organic veggies. Eating great is important to me. That's why Kirk Market is my store. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and shop happy.
The Health Services Authority has over 120 world-class physicians offering the most comprehensive range of specialist services on island. Our dedicated team of professionals provide the highest quality care in orthopedics, interventional radiology, women's health, geriatrics, and a host of other specialist areas. We are a JCI accredited organization with a proven record of excellence. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you. For more information, visit hsa.ky.
Una Ideen Bush, Certificate of Honor, 1908-1995.
Miss Una devoted a lifetime of service to her country and community. She began her career as a school teacher and rose to head the Government Savings Bank, which she developed as the first banking institution in the Cayman Islands. She served her church and community in many other ways, including as a Sunday school teacher, organist, Girls Brigade leader, founding member of the Business and Professional Women's Club, and member of the Garden Club.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks very much for I say this distinct privilege and pleasure to sit here and to facilitate discussions, and one day to the next, one discussion to the next has always been informative and enlightening. And as we get into our next segment, I want to again thank our educators. Without them, where would we be? Without their courage and encouragement, I don't think many of us would sit and ask questions and seek knowledge and be a contributor. So to all of our educators then, but in particular Ms. Althea, that wonderful conference that's transpiring Friday, I think it's going to be amazing. Well, with that, we got a chance to welcome Mr. Fred Burton. I'll show you the email in a bit, who from the OU, the manager for the Terrestrial Resources Unit. Hey, thanks very much for coming on. We've had many conversations over the years. You know the one I remember the most?
Tell me.
I won't tell you the year, but I'll see if you remember. I won't say the bank, but we're in a line at the bank. Finally, we get inside and we're having, you remember it? We're talking about hickatees.
Yes, indeed.
And iguanas. and this is where I find sometimes that I have to be mindful, because I love learning. I credit my parents for that sense of inquiry. You want to know, you ask questions, and they never seem to exhibit any sense of being tired or frustrated with this incessant questioning. What is that? Why is that? And I'm not talking when I'm 2 years old. I'm not even talking when I was 22 nor 42. That's how you learn, isn't it? You ask questions, you seek knowledge, and you seek out counsel.
Yes, and if you stop learning, you might as well be deceased.
Yeah, well, that's the one day you stop learning. But you know why I say something, I think I need to be careful, because not everybody is receptive to questions. And there are times when and this is a learning experience for me personally, I'll ask someone something and I'll engage in a discussion because I have a perception that person's knowledge, experience, their academics, their credentials positions them as they have been presented as this quote-unquote authority, this expert. And so I'm like, whoa, this person knows this thing about this particular thing, and I get to talk to them. Awesome, huh?
Well, there you are.
Well, we'll see where it takes us, right?
Yeah.
So the Terrestrial Resources Unit. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
What is that? I mean, people are thinking, is that extraterrestrials? Are they dinosaurs? I mean, what is that?
Well, terrestrial means the land.
Ah, okay.
And
terra firma.
We work very hard on protected areas, which is the subject of today's discussion. And,
okay.
But also on endangered species, and also on the difficult things, which are the invasive species, which threaten all of that.
Okay. All right. So terrestrial is land. So would there be a maritime, aquatic resources unit?
There's a marine resources unit
that
does the marine. And of course, we work together on the bits that are between.
Maybe there'd be aquamarine. I don't know. All right. So the idea of, and I really appreciate you helping us, because oftentimes we take for granted people are talking and we know, but do we? And then we're afraid to ask, because unlike me, I was always encouraged to inquire. All right.
It's always good to inquire.
Of course. Until you find that the person you inquire will get offended. You'll have to just suck it up, buttercup. Protected areas, another phrase we use. What is that? I mean...
Well, people talk about national parks.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about all those sorts of things. And, of course, all the way around the world, national parks are incredibly popular places.
Right.
And strange to say, we are very low on that here in Cayman at this stage. But we are working at it.
Okay. So what is a national park? Is there a general accepted definition of it?
There is. I mean, there's definitions that we all sort of think we know, but there's formal definitions by IUCN, the International Commission for the Protection of Nature, and all that stuff. But basically, we're talking about different types of protected area. So our marine parks are protected areas. parts of Barkers are protected areas, and people think of Barkers as being a national park, and it's even been announced as a national park, but it isn't, because there is no sort of like coherent area there that you can actually work with. Barkers is a very emotive subject, I know.
Well, I'm going to ask you, it's, even how we say it, I mean, no offense to you, but
Barkers.
Just for you see, everybody knows it, but we think that if we say it that way, we sound stupid. It's people, just like the word is Cayman, the capital K-M-A-N. That's how you say it. It's Barkers. Very simple. Now, we may disagree on how we spell it, but even to that is important, isn't it? That we say it. If your name is George and I call you Mary, and you don't correct me, I'll keep calling you George, right? And unfortunately, those are the things that get the precocious mind and the inquisitive sometimes in trouble, right?
Yeah, and I've heard it said both ways. But
Yeah.
I know the West Bay way is Barkers.
It's the correct way is Barkers. Simple. Ask my poor friends and family. But let me ask Mr. Burton with that. The protected areas and the notion that you said the marine parks are just that. So those are national parks, the marine parks?
Well, there's national parks, and there's different classes of protected areas.
Right.
But national parks are the most familiar ones, because they're the ones that really we focus very much on public access.
Right. And I want us to focus on the land, but just for clarity, so that maybe other people aren't, but maybe I am. From the national park, we have these marine parks. Are our marine parks national parks in that sense? They're protected, but,
Yeah, well, the thing is, the marine parks started before the National Conservation Act ever came into place, and so they're still being called marine parks, but they're actually marine protected areas, technically speaking, under the new legislation.
Right.
But what's in a name?
I call him Mary George and see what's in it. All right, and then back to Barkers, the idea that many of us, there's a sign, as offensive as it is.
There is a sign. But the sign was put up before the National Conservation Act was even passed.
Okay.
And there was no legislation or anything in Cayman then that provided for the creation of national parks.
And I want you to bear with me, because we're not, this is where I think we as a public need to be informed, timely and accurately. We need to be engaged and involved and understand that we need to stand our ground. And as we advocate, it can be very, very deliberate, intentional, but in a sensible, civilized way that brings about a positive impact, as opposed to a bunch of people making a whole lot of noise. And not just talking about the LA, the whole thing, right? So with that, quickly, first, do we have on land any national parks right this minute, legally, and all the other stuff that's,
Okay, if I was going to be really pedantic, I would say no. If I was going to say to all intents and purposes, I would say yes. So let me try this one on you.
Let's see if it fits.
On the BRAC.
On
the BRAC, some years ago, we worked with a lot of people, including Lands and Surveys, who did a great deal of work right up until the moment of Christmas and the New Year to buy a couple of 100 acres of.
This was last year, Christmas and New Year.
No, it wasn't last year. It was a good number of years.
Okay.
Ago. But it all came together about there were a bunch of different parcels of land which were all bought on the BRAC, in the middle of the BRAC on the north side of Songbird Drive, in the area where there's the old Hemington Road and the Dead Man's Point Bluff Road as well. And up in there is some really, really, really fine forest. Okay. Now we've started, because it's a good chunk of land, and almost all of the parcels that we envisage being this protected area are actually now bought, and they've been declared protected by Cabinet under the National Conservation Act. That's an important thing. They are actually protected. So once they're protected, we can write a management plan for them, and we're well along the line to writing a management plan. One of the first things in the management plan is, what kind of protected area should this be? And we look at it and we think, well, what we want to do is we want to improve the trails that are there. We want to make more trails. We probably want to make a place that people can get together in the shade and get together when they're going to go for a walk.
Right.
We might even want to put a canopy level lookout tower that people can look out over the forest. So we're talking about people in the protected area. And what does that sound like to us? It sounds like a national park. So
right.
We're basically already in the draft management plan, we're designating Hemington Forest as a national park.
We're designating, but To be pedantic, as you say,
Yep,
at presently we don't have any national parks.
Yeah, because that management plan has to be passed.
Right.
And it hasn't got to that stage yet.
And
but I could also put to you that there are places here that we all feel should be national parks, right?
Yeah.
East End of Cayman Brac, right? You must know that place.
Yeah.
You go there, everybody who goes to the Brac goes to the East End of the Brac and looks out over that incredible landscape. It's like being on the front of a ship on a voyage to Jamaica and beyond. You've got the brown boobies cruising around the place. It's just that magical place, right?
It is.
But it's all private land.
And this is where I think our discussions, hopefully, will get people to stop and reflect that what you assume, what you thought, what you perceive may not exactly legally be, and therefore, when you find out that, oh, this is happening, so we can invite people to nominate certain things, right?
That's the very first step of this whole protected area thing, is that we can't even go anywhere with this unless the land has been nominated by somebody.
Okay.
Now, let's be clear. The obvious places have all been nominated already. So East Lighthouse National Park has all been nominated, and it's been nominated.
Lighthouse National
again.
Park, you see.
Yeah. There's been you see it.
Yeah,
the words are there. It's been nominated over and over and over again with those words.
Yeah.
Barker's has been nominated over and over and again. Central Mangrove Wetland has been nominated over and over again.
Yeah.
So the nominations have mostly happened for these big areas, but what we don't necessarily have is the smaller things, because I think if you anybody I talk to and I ask, where do you go when you want to go outside and be in nature, there's very specific places that people go, right? There are places people gravitate to and go back to again and again and again, to walk their dogs, to walk themselves, to go for a run, to watch the sunset, to take a swim, to whatever, to look at the stars at night or whatever. There are these special places to people. And I wouldn't say that all of those have been nominated,
I'm going to ask you, and we're speaking to Mr. Fred Burton. If you're online, you're watching, you recognize him. If you're listening, obviously the voice is there. So he's the manager for the Terrestrial Resources Unit. So we're focusing on the land part. And I really appreciate all the discussions over the years. And sometimes I think, he must, feel like I'm, getting very, very much, how should we say, animated. But if we don't do, nothing gets done.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing is, right?
Yeah.
Your mother has just prepared the best meal, and she's reminded you, okay, when you finish, now cover it up and, or put it in the fridge, and you don't. And the next day it's,
It's spoiled.
Well, you had to do. Somebody has to do. You just can't leave it. So with the nomination process, is it any property, whether it's publicly owned or privately owned, can be nominated?
Yeah, because the nomination is just somebody saying, I think it would be nice for this land to be protected, right?
Does that put any sort of impediment on the land, restriction, any kind of encumbrance, whatever the word is?
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's absolutely not possible at that point.
Right, okay.
So there's a whole series of steps that come after that.
Right, and we want to take us through that, right? And Mr. Burton, as we ask you, the idea now that a property has been nominated, there may be some people, and I say this thinking of what I believe is the 40-acre site for a pad. Why is 40 and not 4? Why is not a quarter acre? Who knows? I've been told a story as to what it is. But does it have to be a certain size property, or it could be a little postage stamp piece of land right here that, who knows what happens to it? Nominate that. Does it matter?
It doesn't. You can nominate as the only thing that doesn't work is to nominate an area that doesn't have any nature in it, right? So if you want to nominate a postage stamp of Bear Mile, it's not going to be valid. It's got to have some nature value, right? If you want to nominate a building, it's not appropriate. There's a whole different
category nomination protection. Okay, so the built heritage as opposed.
Yeah. But if you're talking about a place in nature, it doesn't matter if it's a tiny little place or we've had people nominate the entirety of Little Cayman. That's kind of difficult to deal with, but
but they did it anyway.
But they did it anyway.
Right.
And it's not it is a valid nomination. When we get the nominations, then the work starts, right? And we don't, the nominations get more and more and more as the years go by because people keep nominating, and that's cool. It tells us that there's interest in this.
Or people are becoming introduced to them and aware of them and maybe understand the importance.
So what we have to do then is, we have to ask the Conservation Council, out of all of these nominations, what do they actually want to try and move forward in a given year? And they need help with that because the list is long and complicated. So we have a scoring system which the Conservation Council approved and formally adopted. And that is an attempt to look at every nomination and try to figure out how does it score on a whole range of different criteria. You know, does it have a lot of biological diversity? Are there endangered species there? Are there protected species there? This is the biological questions. Is it practical to manage? Could it work as a protected area? Those sorts of questions, the practical questions. The financial questions, is this going to cost the entire government budget, or is this something that could conceivably be bought? So those considerations. Is it important for climate change and protecting the climate and dealing with all this doom and gloom that's heading our way from climate change? Is it a place that people want to go? Is it relevant to humans? Because we want these places, protected areas need to matter to people.
So as we look at that process and their nominations, and some may come, well, first off, are the nominations annual?
They can be actually submitted any time, but every once in a while we put out a call, because if we don't do that,
how often is that call?
It's usually it should be pretty much every year, but it depends on how fast we're actually making progress with the other ones. So if we're still waiting for a bunch of stuff to go through the system, it doesn't make sense asking for more.
And when you get the nominations in, so do you being, I guess, is the National Conservation Council, is that exhaustive list of the 10 nominations, the 1,000 nominations, are they all published, or is it just some?
No, they don't publish at this point. What they do is they look at how they score. So we run them all through the scoring system, and some of the things will score really high, and they'll look at the high scorers, because basically the high scorers are the ones where you can get the most benefit.
Right.
Benefit for conservation, benefit for people at the lowest cost.
Right. Yeah. And I guess I can gather where some people would acquiesce to that and say, well, that makes sense. Me personally, in this area of accountability and transparency and openness and all this stuff that we seem to like to say and don't do, publish them all. There are some people who don't like to read. There are those of us who can't get enough to read. So publish them all.
But remember that a large number of these areas are people's private land.
And that brings me to the second question. You shared that we can nominate any property. Is there a perception that because government may own a property, that there in and of itself is already quote unquote protected? Or can government land be nominated as well as private land? And then if so, just because it's government, it doesn't mean that it's going to be protected.
Well, exactly. And yes, government land can and has been nominated.
Right.
So going back to Barkers, for instance, all the land in Barkers, which is now protected, was protected because it was already owned by government. All the stuff that isn't owned by government isn't protected. And that includes all of the beach that people like to camp on, right? It doesn't cost government anything to protect government land. You don't have to buy it because you already own it. And the way the Conservation Act is set up is you can't even protect private land. You can only buy it and protect it unless the landowner wants to enter into a conservation agreement, which is a whole other thing. So typically what happens, we get these nominations, we score them. The Conservation Council says, well, we really would like to move on this one, this one, this one, and this one. The very next thing that happens is we go to the landowners and say, okay, are you interested in selling this to government so that we can protect it? And the landowner says, then that's that. That's the end of it.
That's it.
That's it.
But
we can go back.
Eminent domain, compulsory acquisition.
No, that doesn't apply for this. It just doesn't apply for this.
Why not?
It's not in the Conservation Act. The Conservation Act has no powers of compulsory purchase.
Okay, but could government acquire it separate and apart from the Conservation Act?
They could.
So they could do a compulsory acquisition if they want to?
They could.
Right. Like they do for roads and parks and other stuff. If they see a property and they're willing and able to afford to they could do it.
Theoretically, yeah. I mean, that's a very political question.
No, it's thank you. And this is where I think sometimes our discussions are esoteric, sometimes where it's almost academic in that sense, but there are times when there are real implications, and I think through you we start to realize that many people are under the impression, the assumption, oh, this is this and that is that. So two things as we go into the break, if I might, and thank you so much for the time. The land that, if I heard you correctly, that is already owned by the government, government has to do nothing to it in terms of, moving it forward, other than if it wants to protect it, but it's already owned, so in a sense, it's protected.
Well, it's not, though, is it?
It's not. Okay, so to clarify that.
No. If it's protected under the Conservation Act, it is actually protected.
Yeah, but that's what you said just now.
Yeah.
Right? The government
but
owns
if it's not protected, there's government does all kinds of things with land. They build government facilities on land. They sell land. They do all things with land.
Yeah.
That's what government land is about.
And like Lighthouse National Park and others, Collier's Pond, and others, I've seen many discussions, some even publicly, where people think, well, it is protected, and there's the Ramses and all kind. Can you give us an understanding? Because there's a for sale sign there, right? What is Collier's? Is it protected? And if so, how? And
yes, I don't know where the for sale sign is, but the for sale sign, I believe, is for the land behind Collier's Pond.
I'm not going to...
But Collier's Pond was protected before the Conservation Act was passed. So was Meager Bay Pond, so was the Booby Pond on Little Cayman. They were protected under the Old Animals Act. And when the Conservation Act came into being, those animal sanctuaries, as they were called, were carried across into the Conservation Act.
But that's just the body of the water?
It's the body of the water and a 300-yard buffer around Meager Bay Pond and Collier's Pond and the Booby Pond.
Okay, so help me to understand. So let's make a circle, that's the pond, and you see it 300 yards. So from the edge of the pond in to the land, going around the circumference, 900 feet thereabouts.
300 feet.
Yeah, 300 feet or 300 yards?
300 feet, sorry.
Okay, so that's not 300 yards.
No.
So not even 1,000 feet. Okay, so 300 feet from the edge, so at least the setback. So someone could build up to 300 feet, and depends on how the surveyor and the water level, who knows what that looks like.
That's right.
So that's protected. But the surrounding land isn't.
Correct.
So it could potentially be where someone think, oh, it's protected, but yes and no. All right. And
yeah, and those are odd ones because they were set up under a different law a long time ago, like a really long time ago.
All right. When we come back from the break, can we chat a little bit? I know you have like all your colleagues over the Union across the civil service a lot on. We had told the schedule 1 to 2. That still works for you. You shared with me, right?
Yeah.
Let's chat some more, talk about the process, and maybe go through it, and hopefully invite people to consider nominating and what that looks like. All right.
For sure.
All right. Hey, join us after the break. Phone calls are there if you want to share. And then at 2 o'clock, I think there's going to be some open line, and we've got something to give away. But between now and then, we're going to get informed. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
This summer, discover adventure, magic, culture, nature, and so much more with Cayman Airways. Airfares are now on sale for travel this summer. Visit New York, Denver, Los Angeles, Miami, Tampa, Kingston, Montego Bay, Panama, Havana, and La Ceiba. But hurry, sale ends June 1st. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or book online at CaymanAirways.com. Make this your best summer yet with Cayman Airways.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Public health is the science and art of preventing disease, prolonging life, and promoting health through the organized efforts of society. Environmental health, mental health, and physical health are all public health. Cayman's new national health strategy aims to protect and promote the nation's public health outcomes, but to do this, we need to hear from you. The Ministry of Health and Wellness is now accepting feedback about healthcare in Cayman on mohfeedback@gov.ky or on gov.ky/health-wellness. Deadline is May 31st. Your opinion matters.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Buttontown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin, or the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Buttontown. Live happy, live healthy with ValueMed Pharmacy.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard the news? Digicel is back with exciting offers that are too good to resist. Activate one of our brand new prepaid or postpaid plans today and experience telecommunications like never before. With more data, dedicated entertainment options like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, and endless social text data for all your favorite platforms. Digicel is here to make sure you stay connected and entertained. Whether you are on a prepaid or postpaid, you will also enjoy dedicated roaming data for the USA, Canada, and the Caribbean. It's all about value, and Digicel has got you covered.
I was undercover and had just recovered the stolen artwork, but...
Aunt Angie, what does this have to do with managing my insurance?
Well, long story long. I found the art thief in France, but ended up becoming somewhat of a local celebrity. So I had to stick around for a while. But I was able to handle all my insurance needs with CG's online portal.
The online portal. Safe, convenient, simple. CG Britgay. Good like that.
The Family Resource Center's Safe Start Forum will take place on Saturday, June 1st from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. for parents and teens. Parents can expect to gain the knowledge and tools to support their teens in making healthy choices and increase their confidence in parenting teenagers. Experts will share research-based information on the subject areas of adolescent development, child safeguarding, and digital responsibility. Teens will have the opportunity to participate in interactive discussions to address the pressures they face within a safe and supportive environment. Sessions will address topics like decision-making, recognizing red flags, and healthy technological use. Join us for a safe start happening Saturday, June 1st.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and I will ask Mr. Carlin if he says it's okay, as we respect Mr. Fred Burton's time. Maybe the next break could be whenever he tells me he'll be, and it'll be as close to 2 as possible to allow us to have this engaged, informative, not just discussion, but extended invitation to people to consider nominating. Mr. Burton, if I may ask you of some examples of places that perhaps have been nominated, but more importantly, that haven't been, that perhaps people think have been and should be. Yeah, would that be okay? Start off with,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of places have been nominated now because this has been going on for ever since the Conservation Act was passed and brought into effect. So, I mean, it was passed in 2013. I think it was brought into effect a couple of years later, piece by piece. So and I started working at the department in 2016, I think, and at that point we were getting underway.
It's only like 10 years-ish.
It's only 10 years each, but 10 years of nominations pretty quickly adds up. But yeah, we feel like if we put all the nominations on a map, which we've done, it's surprising how little of the island hasn't actually been nominated at this point. Okay. But there are still places, I think.
Like where?
So It's the small places that I'm talking about mostly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had an interesting nomination just last time around.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place that I know because I walk my dog there every day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's the Dyke Roads in Lower Valley there.
Yeah.
And when I go down there, I really notice what people are doing because I'm down there like every single day with my dog, and I see other people walking their dogs, and you get to know the people who are walking the dogs, and we kind of chat and all that. And then you see people riding bicycles down there. You see people fishing for tarpon down there. You see somebody lifting weights down there. You see all of these different activities. People are running down there, walking down there, getting exercise of different kinds. And I'm thinking, this place is important for all kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And bird watchers. Yeah, those are the other people.
Yeah, with photography, some just carrying their children out and to see things they never saw before because there are very few places to see these things anymore.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. We got this nomination, and I thought, oh yeah, I know this place.
Mm-hmm.
And it had it was a Google map and a red line around those Dyke Roads, and that's all we need. We need a map that is enough that we can actually say, okay, this is the area that these people think should be protected.
Right.
Now that was a very specific nomination. The central mangrove wetland around it had already been nominated, so technically it's overlapping, but the way that focused in on this area and emphasized how important it is for people was interesting and powerful.
Yeah. And when you said may or may not know that particular area, but just generally digs around the place, I mean, it's a place that there's not much traffic. There's no or little vehicular traffic, and then there are fewer people, so you can reconnect with nature. There's a little bit of solitude and quiet, and then there are birds.
And I think this is going to be more and more important because Cayman is urbanizing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming more and more city-like with every passing year, and we all sit in traffic and fumes and get frustrated, and we're all tied up in our work and our air-conditioned offices, and psychologically we all get pretty stressed sometimes, and it's one of the most effective ways to treat stress is to get outside in a natural place where it's quiet, get a little bit of exercise. Those places are hard to find if you're living in the middle of Georgetown, right?
Well, even on an island, but
so here's a radical thought now. You know where UCCI is?
Mm-hmm.
And you know behind UCCI is a patch of forest. And it's one of the last remaining pieces of the forest that was all over Georgetown once before it happened. And of course it's all private land and it's valuable land and all the rest of it. But government owns a chunk of it right behind the community college there. And the community college is interested in the kind of idea that maybe if we put some boardwalks through into this government land there, that it can be an educational resource for the students, but it can also be a recreational resource for Georgetown, because that is in Georgetown, right? We're talking about protected areas on the BRAC, we're talking about the east end of the island, we're talking about Little Cayman, but this is Georgetown now we're talking. So that's another one that's been nominated, but of course this is quite a famous little spot because everybody knows it as the Ironwood Forest, right? And government had plans to put a road and still probably do plan to put a road around the north end of it, but the original plan was to put a road straight through the middle of it. And there was a big fuss and shout about that. Remember that one?
Well, my recollection that the private landowners at the time were very adamant about ensuring that it was protected in the sense that they'll control it, right? And this is where that individual ethos on champions, but maybe we as a public are not on board. We don't understand the significance of it. And I say that to ask then, when you were talking about the dikes, when you shared, you see what goes on there. I thought you were going to reference to those who walk the dogs with the little blue bags and they just collect the thing and leave it on the ground. Have you seen? I mean, I've seen.
I have seen that.
I'm thinking, just leave the dog to do it there and eventually wash away. But no, you've preserved it by putting it in the bag. We should be able to sanction those people for that. Man. That's offensive.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of issues about dogs and people's pets that we better get into now, because I could spend another 2 hours on that one.
Well, again, and as we speak to Mr. Freyburton, the idea is that these are sort of discussions that offend people's sensibilities.
I know, but
they're important.
Discussions we have to have.
They're important to have publicly.
They're discussions we have to have.
And
so one of the things with protected areas is that when they're protected and we have management plans, we can actually make rules. And those are the sorts of rules that would apply. You know, if that, I mean,
as an example,
as an example. But I mean, I have no idea if those dike roads and the mangroves around them will ever be protected. There's all kinds of private ownership involved in there. And last we talked, they weren't keen to sell.
So just generally speaking now, because I think there's a lot of discussion. There are different, sort of points that people put forward as to what should be protected and why, maybe agendas and ulterior motives and what have you. But with that in mind, you shared that once we get there and it's protected, then there's a management plan as to usage. I always call it wrong, but it's Hemington Forest, right? Hemington, yeah. I keep thinking Hemi, but
yeah. Well, it's I think I'm right in saying the Hemington Trail was named from Hemington Foster, Chessie Hemington Foster. These are the old Brack families that were farming that land.
Which is what I think as well. But again, but with that in mind, what I want to, right now, if I understood you correctly, there are no, technically speaking, national parks. So are there any management plans in place now for any properties anywhere?
There's a management plan now in place for Meager Bay Pond. It's not a national park. It's not big enough and it's not accessible enough to be a national park. So it's what's called a species management area, and the idea is we're trying to, we want people to watch the birds there and be able to watch the birds there, but we want to be able to manage that so that the mangroves can recover. Because what's happened at Meager Bay Pond is the mangroves are dying because they're getting flooded out because of the quarrying that's all around them, and it's a very difficult thing to fix.
And understanding with, thankfully I'll ask questions, and even more thankfully people will answer, and they give me timely, informative. But as you shared, the Meager Bay Pond is too small for a national park. I wanted to ask, what size does something have to be a national park?
To make sense, it needs to be a few, 100 plus acres, I would say. Something really, an area that's big enough you can actually go into without seeing the edge of it.
Okay, but why? I mean, well, first off, how do we come up with that size, 100 some acres? Do we have a number?
No, there is no number. There's no there's no theoretical reason why a postage stamp couldn't be a national park. But when you think about a national park, it's a place people go to visit.
Right.
If you want people to visit a national park, and you don't want to end up making it all crowded, you need space.
Okay. So with that in mind, and we can protect an area, if I understand it correctly, and certainly not trying to be pedantic, not belabor, but recognizing that there's a time when some of us actually travel, and thankfully some of us still do. We go to places and there's a little park, there's a little space. If you're careful, in I think 1 or 2 countries, people with a wingspan like yours could probably span one end to the next. It's a very small place, but it's protected for a particular reason.
Yeah.
And it's seriously protected. And then there are places that have thousands of acres of, protected wilderness, right? So I'm asking that, saying that to ask, can we protect, that little postage stamp?
Absolutely.
And we shouldn't dismiss it just because it's not 100 acres or because it's right there.
No, not at all. And we wouldn't call it a national park, I guess.
Right.
But
something.
Yes, it absolutely can and should be protected if it's a very special place.
I appreciate your team sending me over some notes. Can I just read this? And I'll try to do it without my glasses. This point says,
I can lend you some glasses.
No, I haven't read here, man. I haven't read it. But it does, this phrase, since the NCA, which, is the National Conservation Act, came into effect, some 2,663 acres of land has been protected in this way. It goes on to say, where some contiguous land, or where enough, contiguous land has been protected to make a coherent management unit, we then start work on a management plan.
Right.
So I just wanted to read that just to make sure I quoted it correctly. So my question was, well, if it says where enough land has been protected, well, what makes, how much is it? Is that?
It's the coherence thing, right?
Yeah.
Because when you think about Barkers, right, Barkers is a really good example of this. Almost all of the mangrove in Barkers is protected.
Right.
But the Barkers National Park that everybody... Barkers.
No, that's Barkers. There's no emphasis. But I like you trying. We'll get there. When I become governor, it'll be official.
But the mangrove,
yes, sir,
and the dike roads in the mangroves are protected, but the beach is not.
Right. Okay.
But everybody thinks of that national park as including the beach, because the beach is where people like to be, right? It's where where everybody goes Easter camping. It's all that, where you go horse riding. It's where the beach is an important part of this concept.
Right.
But that isn't protected. So it doesn't make a lot of sense doing a management plan for the mangroves if the beach isn't there.
Right. And so
So we need to figure this stuff out. And I know, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but if at some point a sensible, real Barkers protected area is established, then is the time to do a management plan.
And I like what you shared in that, it has to be not just only cohesive, but there's a lot of interaction, interdependency, right?
And you also get the situation where there's a parcel in one place and a parcel in another place, and we're planning to piece it all together and join it up.
Yeah.
But so it's premature.
Right.
But there are other areas that we need to work on. So the east end of Little Cayman, the interior there's a huge area of land up in there that's been protected. There's a big crown piece and another piece that we bought and protected.
Right.
So there's an area we need to start looking at, and the reason we haven't got a management plan for that is we don't even know what's in there properly, because there's no access whatsoever. It's wilderness.
Yeah. Have you tried asking the people who actually are from there?
Yeah.
And they shared good information, right?
Oh yeah, and we can look at the aerial photography and all that stuff, and we've walked in some of the places we can walk in, but there's a lot of that land that nobody's ever even trodden in.
Well, for a while anyway. We have a call, and I want to ask about the land in the sea, but let's, as we speak to Fred Burton, let's take this call.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Hey, Sterling, Dominic Ebanks here. Good afternoon. How you doing?
Oh, man. Dom, what's going on?
As always saying about it, we couldn't stand it, eh?
Boy, tell you, man. Tell you.
Yeah, so I was just listening briefly, obviously. Didn't catch the whole show from the beginning, but I was a bit surprised, obviously hearing some of the things they talk about, especially when it comes to the size of trying to decide what these parks should be, how big and so forth. It all seems to boil down to, obviously, it's something that our representatives have to obviously put in law, but some of them never going to do that, you know what I mean? We were talking about Barkers. I'm quite sure that there are laws that can be put in place, or we can have some type of zoning system where when you hit that area, say, to a certain point, that nothing can be developed up there in the future, period, whether you own the beach privately or not. And that's probably what needs to be done, that whole Barker section going up to where they had the last building, I think, because there's some more buildings that are ready to be put in now further into Barker after Papagallo, right? So you now have people using the excuse to develop it residentially, because they're putting in applications for these residential houses and stuff to go into Barker, and then later on they'll, convert them into, commercial assets, right? But something should really go into place that whether you want to go in there and build yourself a little cottage or build yourself a hotel, it can't be done, period. That land that you own in there is just as big as your grandparents that have gone on, right? So which means that you'll be holding on to land that would be no good to you. And at that point, you would really be forced to sell it either to the National Trust or you turn it back over to government and they pay you for it. But government not forcing the hand of these people. So even though we have Barkers currently, the majority of it probably sitting in the hands of one of our biggest landowner, right? Who really, in my perspective, should really just turn that land over to the people. I feel that he's got more out of Cayman than Cayman has gotten out of itself. In my opinion, that would be the greatest thing he could ever do, is to turn Barkers over to the people. But that not gonna happen because he's seen the government take the people's land and turn it over to other private developers. So that developer is not blindfolded. He not gonna trust these people to say, let me give it this land so I can keep it for the people. They wouldn't keep it for the people because all the land we had for the people, Safe Haven, Barkas, has not been transferred into the hands of a private sector, right? And that individual or individuals or those companies are venting and they're lobbying very hard from every aspect you can think of to make sure that every future plan they can put in place is to develop as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Eradicate all of these mangroves. We have a mosquito control unit that, their thing is they're never going to eradicate mosquitoes because you'll destroy the whole ecosystem. But here you have developers coming in and eradicating the very foundation that even the mosquitoes depend on, right? So it's being eradicated anyhow you take it. But going back to the fact that those areas like that, we just need to zone them that you can't develop nothing. No church, no hospital, nothing. Right? Can't even bury your dead up in it, put it that way. And at that point, you will cause the value of it to change for those individuals. And it's almost like the same thing right now where we allow people to come in and buy property and so forth and use it to get their PR and all that kind of stuff. All of that stuff has to be stripped away from a lot of these land stuff. Like I said before, I think I said Jewelry Lands and Survey and Planning Department, all these places, they're also intertwined into these individuals, developers that sit on their boards and have lobbyists up inside here that even when you get down to our off-rig, even up inside here, the people up there that are working for the enemy, and it's very hard for you to go up in there and eradicate all of these individuals out of there because they're not for face value. But I'm glad to hear that, the National Trust obviously over the years has did its part in trying to purchase as much as it can where it's all, fragmented all over the place, because it would be great if you could just have this one big piece and turn it into this big park. Right. But something has to be done, and especially when you look at West Bay district that has it doesn't have much of its mangroves left, and I think the Cayman Islands has one of the biggest mangrove sort of ecos in the whole entire Caribbean. When you break it down, we still have a lot of ours left, and we can still protect what little bit we have left. But that takes representatives to go in there and table some kind of bills and something. You mightn't get it passed, you might get a support, but you got to put one foot forward first before you can make that step, right? And if we don't do something, nothing will happen. So I just want to encourage the National Trust and all their supporters who go out there to fight to try to keep our environment healthy and beautiful for our generations to come along, to keep up the good work and continue fighting, even though there are people against it, because, like I said, I might want to develop something and you might just be in the way of that. And, of course, you are now my enemy because you're not with me. But it doesn't mean that it has to be that way. You can find areas to compromise and we can all get along together, the environment, us the people. So
you should have done it. No, man. Thank you, man.
I just wanted to voice my support to the National Trust because they do so much, I think, and they could do a lot more if they had the right assistance financially and government and everything behind them as well.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Maybe one day you'll sit across from me and we can have a face-to-face discussion, all right? Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Right.
Thank you, too.
All right. And as we recognize the time, speaking to Freddie Burton, thanks for coming in, because I think more that we have discussions, the more that people will realize that they were laboring on the, perhaps misconception and have a timely, accurate information. With that, if you wish to jump in, then I'll ask two other things.
Yeah, but one thing I will just jump in from the caller.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things that the Conservation Act is very clear about is we're not looking for mechanisms to make the land worth less so we can buy it cheap and protect it. That's
right.
That's pretty unethical.
Yeah.
I mean, what we try to do is we try to engage landowners in good faith and talk about fair market value.
What's your view on the caller's point? He said, used the word zoning, and I'm not going to profess to understand land
So zoning is something under the planning law,
right,
and the development plan specifically, and we're still labouring under a development plan that's like way old,
right.
But that's the only place that you can do zoning like that.
Yeah.
And zoning typically is development zoning. It's not restrictive zoning.
Okay.
The whole structure of the development and planning law is antithetical to the concept that was being advanced there, I would say.
And not to, maybe for future discussion, because you share, many of these things are things that we ask and we talk about perhaps over here, but never publicly, because maybe we're not informed, maybe we are mindful that we don't want to offend. But with that in mind, public open space, POS, and LPP, land for public purposes. I don't know if this is synonymous or not. You can, if you know, are they synonymous?
No, they're a little different.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, public. It's interesting. The protected areas, the National Trust areas, the Salina Reserve, Colliers Reserve, they're designated public open space.
Right.
Because there is no zone for protected area.
Right.
What is wrong about that?
Well, I think Mr. Dominic quite evidently inferred there needs to be will.
There needs to be will.
Political, economic, social, whatever, will.
Globally, people are talking about trying to protect 30% of land by 2030.
Yeah, globally they're talking about a lot of stuff that makes no sense, but thankfully someone does, right?
We're up to about 12% right now, with the National Trust and the government combined. Right. We aren't really very far ahead. Yeah.
Let me ask. I was going to ask two things, but maybe I'll be mindful and ask the second one another time. But as we were talking about nominations and places that may be protected, and many of us go down to Smith's Market area, and we've seen properties on the side of it, and we think it's this. Where does that fit into this whole landscape?
At the moment, it's not being done through the Conservation Act, and maybe it's not even necessarily appropriate to go through the Conservation Act. So government basically bought that land adjacent to Smith Bargateer,
right,
and made it part of the public beach. So that's being done by the land, the purchase is done by the Lands Ministry, and it's not being done through the Conservation Act and the DOV at all.
Okay.
It could have been done that way, but it probably isn't the best way.
Yeah, and this is where hopefully we'll have it. So I'll, with all my other question, because I think it speaks to being in a position to ensure that what we're doing makes sense, and not only makes sense now, but makes sense for generations, right? That investment we're making. But this process, this present round, like anything, starts. There has to be a timeline. So nominations are open until when? Are they open now?
They're permanently open.
They're permanently okay?
Permanently open. But we're actually making a little push right now just to remind people that this can happen, right?
Okay, so I was given a note. The current round is running until the 31st of July.
Yeah, so what we do, you see, is come 31st of July, we actually batch this stuff, right?
Okay.
Because they trickle in, and then at some point we put them all on the spreadsheet, we run them through the scoring system, we take them back to the Conservation Council.
Well, thanks for coming in, right? And between now and then, and certainly thereafter, public invitation always stands. I'll go through your team formally to come back in and say, hey, we've either getting close to that 31st of July deadline, following that deadline, hey, we've received these, and we keep it in the public, but as you shared, it's an open, ongoing invitation to nominate.
Yeah.
And then the process is there.
Yeah.
All right.
And all you have to do to do a nomination is you need some kind of a map that you can draw a line around and say, this is the area that I want to see protected. You need to say why you want to see it protected, a little bit maybe, and then you email it to conservationcouncil@gov.ky.
Thanks, man. Well, I recognize in closing that as much as I like Barkas, there are many who live here, who are from here, who've been here for generations, for decades, who've never been at Barkas. Understandably, there are many of us on one part of just Grand Cayman alone who may have not been into East End. And yet, it's so small. And the reason why I say that is that I got into, introduced and aware on a very, very sort of personal level, what I'm told is called, Barefoot Beach or something like that.
Oh, I know that.
And it's a beautiful space, right?
Yeah.
And yet, like many places, at some point, there's probably going to be a development. Now, that was proposed way back when for some development that started but never. So I want to say that to say to people, as you talked about the dikes, are we aware of these places? Are we understanding what could happen? Is there a way to get involved? And maybe this is a process to consider that partnership. How do we protect somehow in our preservation so that future generations? So thanks very much, right?
Thank you, too.
All right. Well, we got a prize that we want to give away in the next half an hour, so join us. Stay tuned.
This summer, discover adventure, magic, culture, nature, and so much more with Cayman Airways. Airfares are now on sale for travel this summer. Visit New York, Denver, Los Angeles, Miami, Tampa, Kingston, Montego Bay, Panama, Havana, and La Ceiba. But hurry, sale ends June 1st. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or book online at CaymanAirways.com. Make this your best summer yet with Cayman Airways.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard the news? Digicel is back with exciting offers that are too good to resist. Activate one of our brand new prepaid or postpaid plans today and experience telecommunications like never before. With more data, dedicated entertainment options like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, and endless social text data for all your favorite platforms. Digicel is here to make sure you stay connected and entertained. Whether you are on a prepaid or postpaid, you will also enjoy dedicated roaming data for the USA, Canada, and the Caribbean. It's all about value, and Digicel has got you covered.
When it comes to weekly meal prep, I trust Kirk Market to provide the best value for quality proteins. The butchers at Kirk Market are super helpful. They always slice my steaks perfectly. Kirk Market has everything I need for healthy and flavorful protein-packed meals. From lean cuts of CAB choice beef, tender CAB prime beef, the juiciest pork, and all-natural hormone-free poultry, to their seafood section with everything from fresh local snapper to omega-3 rich salmon. I choose Kirk Market for the highest quality proteins to support my healthy lifestyle. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and discover a world of choice.
Discover your dream home with Cayman National's home loan. Get up to 95% financing, repayment up to 40 years, and just a 0.5% commitment fee. Your interest rate? Depending on your risk factors, it'll be fixed or variable. Plus, you get a pre-approved credit card. This is a limited time offer. Dial 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
Public health is the science and art of preventing disease, prolonging life, and promoting health through the organized efforts of society. Environmental health, mental health, and physical health are all public health. Cayman's new national health strategy aims to protect and promote the nation's public health outcomes, but to do this, we need to hear from you. The Ministry of Health and Wellness is now accepting feedback about healthcare in Cayman on mohfeedback@gov.ky or on gov.ky/health-wellness. Deadline is May 31st. Your opinion matters.
Start your day in the know. Don't miss a beat. Radio Cayman's 7 a.m. news keeps you informed every Monday through Saturday at 7 a.m. Brought to you by Cayman National, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974.
Yesterday,
today,
always and forever.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines.
The headline news is brought to you by Kirk Market.
Good afternoon. With your latest headlines, I'm Jevi Ebanks. Lincoln Donovan Cibron and Randon Odell Davis are set for a September trial, represented by Brady's attorney at law and Kelly Law, respectively. The pair, charged with robbery and possession of an imitation firearm with the intent to commit robbery, will soon face arraignment. They're scheduled to return to court on the 27th of June for a pretrial conference. In regional news, the U.S. Treasury Department announced on Tuesday significant regulatory changes aimed at bolstering American financial support for Cuba's emerging private sector. This includes unprecedented access to the U.S. internet-based services. For the first time in decades, Cuban entrepreneurs will be able to open and manage U.S. bank accounts from Cuba, a move that reverses restrictions established post the 1959 revolution. Additionally, the new measures will enable the use of U.S.-based social media, online payment platforms, video conferencing, and authentication services, which have long been inaccessible to Cuban small businesses. These steps are part of the Biden administration's commitment to support the Cuban private sector growth. In Jamaica, an investigation is underway for a shooting incident in the corporate area early Tuesday. Former Boys Town footballer Rafiq Thomas, age 40, was fatally shot and another man wounded during a home invasion on Water Street, downtown Kingston. The incident occurred around 4:40 a.m. local time when the armed assailants entered the residence and opened fire. Thomas, who was instrumental in the Boys Town's Championship League victory last season, was pronounced dead at the scene. That's your latest headlines. I'm Jevy Ebanks.
www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
When it comes to weekly meal prep, I trust Kirk Market to provide the best value for quality proteins. The butchers at Kirk Market are super helpful. They always slice my steaks perfectly. Kirk Market has everything I need for healthy and flavorful protein-packed meals. From lean cuts of CAB choice beef, tender CAB prime beef, the juiciest pork, and all-natural hormone-free poultry, to their seafood section with everything from fresh local snapper to omega-3 rich salmon. I choose Kirk Market for the highest quality proteins to support my healthy lifestyle. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and discover a world of choice.
Radio Cayman Talk Today continues.
Hey, welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to the fantastic team here who helps to keep things on air. As I put on my headset and take our next call for this open line segment. Hey, welcome, and thank you for calling.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Excellent, excellent. How about yourself?
Good, thanks. I just wanted to ask you to help with a short bulletin or two that I think maybe your newsroom should also check out and maybe follow up with some bulletins or news items. The first one is already being advertised, but not often enough. That's the development plan meetings, which begin in a few days. It begins next week, on the 4th next week.
Next week, Monday, I think it is, right? Monday?
The 4th.
On the 4th, okay.
Yeah, that's not, I think it's Wednesday.
Is it?
But the news, the 4th of June, that's all I'm going to say right now.
Yeah, yeah.
June 7 o'clock at John Cumber Primary School.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've been talking for years about, you know, developing a plan or updating the plan for Cayman, the national plan for zoning and development, planning regulation, things you were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it begins next week in West Bay, June the 4th. So maybe your team at the newsroom can do some bulletins or PSAs or something. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
the second thing we also talked about in recent times, which is education and the needs and the shortfalls. Well, a lot of things are being done or being proposed this summer specifically, especially at John Cumber in West Bay again.
Mm-hmm.
There's a special summer school being planned for about 80 kids who have been identified with special needs to help with core subjects, English, maths, and science, things like that. And it was just, you know how it is, the time is going by. It was just decided last week, I think. The deadline for the parents to sign up is this Friday, 2 days. So parents should, if they haven't heard from their teacher, their class, their school, they should contact the school if they think their child would be on that list of needing help over the summer. It's a free camp for 3 weeks. It will include field trips, fun things as well. No uniforms needed. It's going to be a good time, not just sitting in the classroom.
Well, I appreciate you bring that to us, right? And as you said, you know, there's a short, you know, so deadline is Friday and today's Wednesday, right?
Right.
But just two things. Well, go on and I'll ask if there's some of the stuff you want to share.
Well, there's lots of other things, good things happen. Oh, on Saturday, the first of June, there's a car wash fundraiser at the school as well.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for allowing me to share that here. But also, if your bulletin board, your news people want to add that.
Well, what you can do, right? Send these things in.
Sorry?
Just email the flyer to rcnews@gov.ky.
Well, unfortunately, I haven't seen a flyer. I don't think there's a flyer. There was a meeting at the school this week where these things were revealed, but I don't know if there's anything formal, a letter, email, or flyer that's been sent out. I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
I'm not a parent there, by the way, so I was just representing another child, but just before the rumors get out, I don't have no children in John Cumber Primary.
I'm not going to even ask any questions about anything else. Okay, I'll leave that be for now.
But anyway, those are two deadlines. The car wash this Saturday. That's the sponsor to help support the playgrounds and all the good things. They have a new sensory calming room for children that are a bit overstimulated. Those types of things.
Right.
So lots of good things are happening, but the key things are registration by this Friday for the summer program for the kids with special needs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure later in a month or next month, they will announce the regular summer camps for other kids.
Right.
But this one is for kids in years 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
This one that registration is Friday for years 4, 5, and 6 kids with special needs.
Right.
But when I say special needs, it's not SEN or things like that. Just that I might need help with English or might need help with math or might need certain concepts. So this is the time to have them catch up, because we need to do something about literacy and numeracy scores and all the things that we're seeing. We have to help these children to become prepared for high school, because remember now there's no middle school. 10, 11, they're going over to high school, or is it 11, 12? So we have to help these primary school children be prepared for.
But this is where I appreciate you championing that. But as you shared, and you've always been a very strong public advocate for education as well. Summer schools, I don't know whether it's because of the media and the TV shows and movies that we've watched, or maybe what we've experienced. But in your view, can I ask two things pertaining to summer schools? What is your perception of summer school?
Well, I think that many parents would take advantage on children if they know that their child needs help, especially in the years, those formative years before they leave to go to high school. I think most parents and kids would welcome it.
Well,
because.
But what is your perception of it? Is it a punishment or a reward?
My perception is no, it is a reward, because you're setting them up for a brighter future, better jobs, better careers, scholarships, everything else, simply based on their performance or their level of education leaving primary school. I think it's a great thing. And it's not all summer. It's only 3 weeks. They still have more than a month to go to the beach and everything else.
But I think you are correct in saying, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the summer school does include field trips. This summer school will include field trips and other fun outings, so it's not just classroom work.
Yeah, well, which is great. I think you are correct in a certain that it's beneficial that the children and parents would see the value in it. No, I'm not so sure necessarily that they would want to attend, but I think, and it's a perception that I've sort of asked, and I believe is shared by many. It's seen as a punishment. It's seen as something that we do for those children who need remedial help, as opposed to that thing that we acknowledge seemingly happens over the summer. Right. The child loses a few grades. That's what we're told. The child is not engaged, right?
Exactly. The fallback over summer.
So,
but that's the mindset too. If a parent has that mindset, then the child is definitely in a bad situation.
Right. But it's not even so much.
And a parent should. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, and a parent should welcome an opportunity to help their child.
No, and I think
it doesn't cost anything,
Yeah, I think all parents do, but I think one of the problems with many things, there's a lot of lip service to being paid globally to everything, right? In a minute, and I'm being, where you recognize that I'm taking license with you because one of my personal respect for you in terms of my perception of your intellect, but also your willingness to engage, right? Are we not just globally, but let's just speak to the Cayman context specifically? are we willing to stand in the gap? I think of the way we approach education, and I'm very pleased. I was encouraged by the discussion earlier relative to early childhood, and over the years, the many discussions we've had with early childhood education and recognizing that investment. But we won't see the dividends, until maybe 20 or 30 years down the road. We'll know that it's helping, and we'll know the negative consequences of not doing almost immediately, but we won't really truly see the value until the child is in the 20s and 30s, right? So are we willing?
Well, not necessarily, because if a child is doing whatever, something positive, there are benefits almost immediately.
That's what I'm saying. We'll see those benefits.
You're right, though, that the parents especially are not supportive or embracing these opportunities. But if they see the child and get an award at graduation, everybody's taking pictures and everybody's happy.
Yeah, but that's all.
For instance, the school also just finished their swim program, the Learn to Swim program, which is great. At the school with a special setup. I don't remember all the details, but they have a mobile thing, a pool that comes and it teaches kids to swim. Most of the parents, I understand, were not enthusiastic about it from the beginning. All the duration, they weren't coming out to support it. But when they had the final awards, I think last week, they all came out. Everybody was happy to take pictures and, celebrate the successes of the children in the swimming program at John Cumber.
But look,
they largely leave it, unfortunately, for the school to do the right thing, and they step back. A lot of parents are intimidated by modern education, the modern math, and the tech and everything. So a lot of them are intimidated even by homework assignments. So there's a balance. Yeah.
But again, just generally speaking, to what extent are we honest in our invitation to include, if you're talking education, that partnership that we hear always being touted, between the home and the school, and that idea that we need everybody on board. Is it more of PR and lip service as it is actually of true practice?
Well, it's a fact, but it's like you're on one side of the river and the parents are on the other side, the school is on one side, and they all agree that they want to reach out to each other, but you have to build a bridge from both sides. Bridge can't start on one side.
Well, that's what
So the parents have to do their part, and the school is doing their part, and they meet in the middle, as they say. And then once everybody can cross over the bridge freely, then everybody's happy.
Yeah, we don't even need to meet in the middle, right? We just need to have the bridge there so people can move across, right?
Right, but it has to be built first. Yeah. That's my thing.
No, yeah, and I like you say that, I like you say that.
But it's lots of positive things are happening. I know people like to point fingers at when things are negative, but parents especially need to take advantage of these things, the summer schools and the other things, the sensory rooms and things.
But here's something that people like to do as well. They like to say somebody should do something. They like to point out what's not being done, but are they willing to step up and say, here am I, how can I help?
Right.
And I appreciate you, saying, hey, these things are happening, but sometimes it takes more than that. You know what I mean?
But well, listen, the only thing I would like to add, if I was the principal or the chief education officer, and this one is serious as well, these children need to be wearing hats in these primary schools in the sun.
Yeah.
Because even an hour on the playground, lunchtime or break time or whatever, the sun is brutal. And the private schools, hats are mandatory.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot that needs to be, done. And I'm hopeful that if someone, whether it's you, myself, or others collectively, hopefully, not just individually, steps up and does these things that everybody says somebody needs to do, that there'll be people who will actually be supportive and stop talking and, as they say, beating up their gums. Because if not, what'll happen then? And we'll have nobody to blame but ourselves.
It's a great primary school.
It is.
You and I both went there. I think you went there, right?
You know I went there.
Yeah, so we're in the same class, actually.
No, you're much older than me, Bobo.
But, all the primary schools are great. They have great potential.
Yep.
Millions of dollars are being spent on education. So, we just need to work. The parents and the families need to help the kids out. We can't just say, summer's out, so just go and play, go fishing.
But
that's part of it.
Yeah. And thanking you for highlighting that sensory room that they have there. My question is recognizing, right, is value. Why isn't it in all schools? But more importantly, we continually and constantly assign labels to people. Now, a space like that might be beneficial for everybody. It might be more immediate for some. But think about it, if we can get into a space where maybe there's less stimulation, maybe the lights aren't so glaring, maybe it's not so much noise. Maybe that's why so much like libraries.
They call it correcting sensory regulation, or it's pretty much the same thing. It's over understimulated different issues. Could be ADHD, could be some other issues. But they have psychologists and therapists there to deal with those, to identify those needs.
Yeah. I hear you,
but
man.
the service is there.
Yeah, and it should be everywhere, and it should be for all.
Right.
But again, anyway, I think, all right. Any guys want to share, and then we'll take the other break. All right.
No, man, just stay cool, literally. Stay out of the sun.
There you go, Bobo. All right. Thanks again, man. And if you can make contact with your, friends and others at the Westbury Primary School, if they want to send through something for the bulletin board, hey, rcnews@gov.ky. If it's a school, I'm not talking about commercial ventures, right? You pay to advertise.
Yeah, no, I understand.
No, I'm just telling people that. So, But thank you very much, man, and we'll talk to you in a bit.
Right. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Thank you.
And appreciate that caller. And as we go to the break, a message came through asking, the person said, just started listening. Can you please clarify whether the government will be making the boardwalks in the forest behind UCCI? Now, to the caller or the listener who sent that message, we didn't see it, I think, until after Mr. Burton left. It came in quite near the end as we saw it. But he had alluded to it earlier when he referenced that there was some discussion of UCCI using the land behind is owned by government and building boardwalks and using it as a sort of a outdoor teaching module and the like. Now, as to who will be building it, whether it will be done, let's inquire further. But there's so much that can be done. We're going to pause. We're going to take a break. I think it's our final break. When we return, we want to give a listener 2 tickets to a wonderful, I call it a dance recital, but, well, we'll tell you more about it. We had them on the program the other day, and we got 2 tickets for the Saturday show. We want to give them to you. So stay tuned.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
This summer, discover adventure, magic, culture, nature, and so much more with Cayman Airways. Airfares are now on sale for travel this summer. Visit New York, Denver, Los Angeles, Miami, Tampa, Kingston, Montego Bay, Panama, Havana, and La Ceiba. But hurry, sale ends June 1st. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or book online at CaymanAirways.com. Make this your best summer yet with Cayman Airways.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Dwayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
You know what I love to do with my family? Go fishing. I can put the bait on and cast and reel the line all by myself. My mommy and daddy say when they were little, there were plenty more fish to catch, but now there are lots more people fishing, so it's harder to find them. That's why we have marine parks now. They set some areas aside so the fish there can have babies and grow bigger. Then they swim out to other areas where I can catch them. Having the marine parks means there will still be fish there when I'm grown up and fishing with a family of my own.
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
The National Council for Persons with Disabilities is proud to invite members of the public to visit their new website. With its modern, user-friendly design, the site offers accessibility features as well as information and resources for everyone, including persons with disabilities, caregivers, and those with long-term health conditions. The National Council for Persons with Disabilities has been striving to bring accessibility and inclusivity to all residents of the Cayman Islands since 2017. Find out more. Visit www.disabilitycouncil.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and I think we have time for at least one call or maybe more. But we want to give one listener 2 tickets for the performance this coming Saturday evening. It's at 7 p.m. at the Harquail. Flavor is what it's entitled. The 36th season of dance at the Harquail. Cayman Islands National Dance Company puts it on. And we were honored to have a discussion recently, and we want you to go, in partnership, with the dance company. We got 2 tickets for Saturday's performance, and if you were buying the tickets, I'm looking at the tickets now, and $30 or $15 if you're a child under 15, so you get 2. You take the call. Welcome, thanks for calling.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm not too bad.
All right. I hope you're feeling better today.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening and calling whenever you can, So.
Yeah. Darling.
Mm-hmm.
Who gave me a ticket for Reflection some months ago? I haven't received it yet. I want a ticket on that station. I haven't received that.
Did you come by and get it?
No.
Do you remember what it was for?
It was Reflections.
For Reflections?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, then, let me do 2 things then. 1, double check if it's out here, and 2, if not, get it to you. All right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not calling for the tickets, so so let someone else call and receive them, because I'm not going to go.
Uh-huh.
We'll talk later, so try to get another call, okay?
Okay. Take care, huh?
Thank you.
All right. Bye. And the next caller, if you would like 2 tickets, if you've never been to sort of a dance recital or this kind of, that's not even going to do it justice, because it's going to be such fun. And in particular, as Miss Monique was sharing the other day, the performance, the artistry, the elegance, the choreography, honestly, the athleticism, of dancers on stage, and the poetry in motion, the notion that they are able to tell a story through their movement. Sometimes, there's not much besides that solo dancer doing I call it a routine. And then there are times that accompany music, and then there are other dancers, and these, bring a spiritual almost awakening in our soul. And you don't necessarily have to be one of those theater goers, with season tickets. It could be your first performance. And for me, to sit and watch and to recognize that people, are able to do these things, I'll be in awe. I'll be inspired as I admire their, agility, their discipline, the fact that they have that courage and confidence to go on stage. And maybe you sitting there, that'll cause you to pursue that thing that you always wanted to, or to be, so encouraged to continue with that discipline, recognizing that at the end of the day, you'll get there at some point. But if you quit now, well, what is it that your parents always told you? Quitters never win and winners never quit. But just being there and supportive may encourage that performer to continue to be motivated to exercise that discipline. And otherwise, there'll be something to do on this Saturday night. So we're going to have these tickets for you. And it is this Saturday. It's at 7 p.m. at the Harquail. So come along if you want. Oh, tomorrow is Thursday. And already, the month ends. Thanks to Mr. Simon Boxall at HMCI. We have the annual, we call it the Hurricane Show. It's usually done as close to the 1st of June as possible. This year, the 30th was requested, and we're honored again to have that partnership. Mr. Simon puts together the panel. He reaches out all the guests and he schedules them, and I'm hoping that publicly, while he's in studio, he may help to facilitate our discussion. And we talk about preparation and planning. We'll put you in a position where you feel empowered, that you'll be able to recognize that yes, you may have a sense of what if something happens, but you'll be prepared, and you'll have the mindset, and you'll have the confidence, you'll have the information that assists so that you don't have to be so overwhelmed. And that's tomorrow. Now on Friday, and for the succeeding 6 days, I will be noticeably elsewhere. I'll tell you more about that, but heads up, I'm taking some time, and I'll be grateful for the opportunity to step away for a bit. Thankful for the offer that has come my way, and to Ms. Tyson for ably facilitating the hosting, for those 7 days. Mr. Carl, enjoy, the music that's being played as we bring it to you. Thank you all for being a part of our discussion. Remember that if we are prepared to stand in the gap, we can make things happen. Let's do something that is positive and productive. Let's be prayerful and purposeful, and very positive in our intent to serve and to invest and to make that, so that tomorrow and the many tomorrows that follow are not only productive, but they are such that for generations to come there'll be positive benefits. Have a great afternoon, everybody. I hope to see you out and about, lively and alive, smiling, and so enthused about what the promise of tomorrow. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-60